Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to my Euro Qualifier predictions, where today we'll be predicting both round 7 and round 8 of the qualifiers. Now of course, I'm pretty sure you guys understand how it works right now, the fact that we have over 50 games to talk about in today's video. So once again, I do sincerely apologize if there are any crucial details that I miss out on. Obviously, I can't talk about every single factor, about every single team, otherwise we will be here until Euro 2028.
It's been 84 years.
So of course, if there are any crucial details that I do end up missing, do let me know down below, and along with that, post the flag of the country you support in the comment section down below. Make sure to do that, I want to see some flags down below. But of course, jumping into game number 1 of round 7, we have Latvia versus Armenia. Now to me, this is an easy one, with Armenia winning this one 2-0, just purely because over the last few years, they have been a better footballing nation. And along with that, throughout the qualifiers so far, they've definitely been the better team, and I said they should win this one. Now, next up, we've got Spain versus Scotland, and if there's any man in the world right now who's got some gigantic regrets, it's the man who scouted Scott McTominay as a midfielder instead of a striker, because had he done so, we could have had the next R9 Ronaldo.
I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better, I am better!
The fact that he's the top goal scorer, I believe, in qualifiers so far, along with scoring 2 goals versus Brentford for Man United. Once again, absolutely lethal striker of the ball, but obviously jokes aside, the Scotland national team has been brilliant overall, and I really think that they could do it versus Spain. My only doubt is the fact that Spain, technically speaking, are still the favourites. As we know, Spain is an absolutely gigantic footballing nation, and they'll never not be favourites in a fixture like this. But I am going to go for Scotland with a 2-1 win here, just purely based off of the fact that I have doubted them every single time, and they do still have a perfect record. So clearly me doubting them hasn't done anything, but I am worried now that I am going to go for them, that they will eventually lose.
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anyway.
But obviously at the end of the day, Scott McTominay, do your thing, and Scotland, let's see if you can go unbeaten. Now next up, we've got Belarus versus Romania, and much like the Latvia versus Armenia game, I've got a strong favourite here with Romania. Once again, just a better footballing nation overall. I do think they'll win it 2-0. Look at the last time they played against each other, Romania did score 2 early goals in a 2-1 win over Belarus, and ultimately, as I said, they should take it. Now, Andorra versus Kosovo is next. They did draw 1-1 last time around, and as these two teams are so similar at the moment, and it was very recent that they got that draw, I really can't separate these two teams, and I'm going to go for another 1-1 draw. And talking about draws, the next game might as well be a draw, because we have Albania versus Czech Republic.
Shut up and take my money!
Two teams who have been absolutely brilliant. Obviously Albania currently top of the group, Czech Republic in second in the group. It's a gigantic game in terms of qualifying, but I do think ultimately this could be a 2-2 draw, just purely because I do think two teams are very, very similar. I think they match each other's defensive ability and attacking ability. I do think they'll give every single player a run for their money, and ultimately, as I said, I can't separate them. Now, next up, we've got Faroe Islands versus Poland, and looking at Poland, the fact that they're not first or second in the group with Albania and Czech Republic has really showed them how horrific they are. Look at them, second last in that group, and I've got almost no faith in them. The only redeeming factor for them is the fact that they are above Faroe Islands, which is why I will give them a 1-0 win here. Now, next up, we do have Israel versus Switzerland, and as we know, with the problems in Israel at the moment, this game will be postponed. So obviously, looking at it strictly from a football point of view, we will talk about it at a later stage. But obviously, my thoughts and prayers do go out to the people who are negatively affected by the situation. Now, of course, next up, we've got Cyprus versus Norway, and Norway should win this one 3-0. As we know, they've got some absolute firepower up front. Obviously, look at Cyprus. I do believe they're still last in their group, so once again, Norway are the favourites here. And once again, if there's one thing Erling Haaland can do, it is score goals.
I feel very good.
Now, next up, we do have Croatia versus Turkey, and Croatia are the strong favourites here. And look here at Croatia, if you look at the last 10 years of national team football, every single tournament they've been absolutely brilliant, whether coming second in competitions, whether they come in third in competitions, they should take this one with a very comfortable 2-1 win. Or, you know what, actually I'm going to change that, I'm going to make it a 2-0 win here. Look here at Turkey, they also don't have Arda Güler at the moment, he has picked up an injury, and I do think they'll affect them. Now next up we have Estonia versus Azerbaijan, and once again a team or two teams that haven't been doing well so far. Neither of these two teams with a single win yet, and I am going to go for Azerbaijan with a 1-0 win, and the only reason I'm saying that is because Estonia has conceded way more goals. Once again, neither of these two teams have been impressive, but once again less of two evils, I guess. Now, Ireland versus Greece is next, and this is a gigantic game because looking at Greece, they could qualify at the moment and they have been brilliant throughout qualifiers, another team to exceed my expectations. But for some reason, I am going to go for Ireland here.
Unless he's breastfeeding, he should be alright.
Despite the fact that they are 6 points worse than Greece at the moment, I do think they have the ability to catch here. Looking at Ireland, I've said it on countless occasions, the amount of brilliant youth in their squad at the moment, I do feel like eventually it has to switch on, and I've just kind of got a gut feeling here that it will be this game. Now, Netherlands versus France is next. Now, of course, on paper, this is an absolutely gigantic game, but I have to go for France here. Obviously, looking at them in the last 5 meetings between these two teams, France have won 4 of those games. They did also score 4 goals in the previous game, and once again, Netherlands just don't have a good track record versus France. I'm going to give it to France 3-2. I would give it to them 3-0, but obviously they're not playing Olivier Giroud in goal.
I contend that I'm gorgeous.
Now, Iceland versus Luxembourg is next, and another very, very close game. I really can't separate these two teams, to be honest with you. I am going to put this down as a 1-1 draw. I do think both teams are very, very similar. Neither brilliant on the defense, neither brilliant on the attack, and once again, it's kind of a game that I'm going to have to judge on paper. Now, Austria versus Belgium is next, and I am going to give this one to Belgium with a 3-2 win. Obviously, looking at Austria, they've been absolutely brilliant throughout qualifiers so far, but looking at Belgium, yes, they've lost unnecessary points, but they've shown that even without Kevin De Bruyne, even without Courtois, in their previous international break, they conceded 0 goals and scored 6. They still are the strong favourites. They've got a brilliant amount of squad depth. Even with Trossard going back home to Arsenal, they have the likes of Jeremy Doku from Man City. The amount of quality in this Belgium national team, once again, it does carry them through every single time, and I do think that they will just beat Austria. Saying that, Ralf Rangnick has been brilliant, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way.
Naughty, naughty, you teasing me, you naughty, naughty.
Now, Liechtenstein versus Bosnia is next, and I have to give this one to Bosnia 2-0. As we know, on their day, it can be a very strong footballing nation, where Liechtenstein, once again, may be one of the worst teams in qualifiers.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
Conceding 19 goals in their 6 games, obviously losing all 6, they've only scored 1 in those 6 games. There's absolutely no redeeming factor, and I have to give it to Bosnia. Now, talking about very unimpressive records, we've got a very impressive record next with Portugal versus Slovakia. Now, yes, Slovakia is second in the group, and they definitely could take it versus Portugal. It will be Portugal's most difficult game so far, but I have to give it to them, because look here, Portugal. 0 goals conceded in 6 games, absolutely phenomenal, but not just that, 24 goals scored. I mean, you just go from the top of my head, for example, in terms of striking ability, from João Felix, Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafael Leao, Bernardo Silva, and I bet you there's 2 or 3 names that didn't even come to my mind there. I do think Portugal is an absolute powerhouse of a nation, and they should win this one 3-1. Now, next up, Northern Ireland versus San Marino. I'm going to give it to Northern Ireland 1-0. Once again, they've had some okay moments in qualifiers, but ultimately San Marino still 0 competitive wins in their history. I'm just never going to give it to them. I'm sorry.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target.
Now, Ukraine versus North Macedonia next. I'm going to give this one to Ukraine 2-0. I think they've shown versus some top teams that they can be absolutely difficult to play against, where North Macedonia, once again, just not as strong as they were 2-3 years ago. Now, Slovenia versus Finland is next, and I'm going to give this one to Finland. I'm just going to go with the 1-0 win here. I believe they won the last fixture 2-1 or 2-0, and although I do like Slovenia, I think they've got some absolute top quality. Finland have just been a different animal so far in qualifiers, with one of the top assist makers being Timo Pukki. Now next up, Bulgaria versus Lithuania, and what a difficult game to discuss. Both teams have been absolutely dreadful. I mean, this is one of the most underwhelming games in qualifiers. You look at Bulgaria, they haven't won a single game in their last 7, where Lithuania haven't won a single game in their last 15 games, and the last win was against San Marino. So once again, do we count it?
What is this? What is this?
But ultimately, once again, I guess Bulgaria having a shorter no-win streak, I might just give it to them with a 1-0 win. Once again, underwhelming. Now, going from underwhelming to highly, overwhelming, perfectly whelming, we have Hungary versus Serbia. As you know, Hungary have definitely been giant slayers in recent years, with Serbia once again one of the biggest underdogs in every competition. Both teams really have the ability to make it close, and I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw as I really can't separate the teams. Now, Denmark versus Kazakhstan. As we know, Denmark were absolutely shocked by Kazakhstan last time around. And although Kazakhstan could definitely do it again here, I have to give it to Denmark here. Once again, when you look at their quality and if you look at what they've done in recent tournaments, they still just have to be the favorites, and I'm going to give them a 3-1 win. Now, the last game of round 7, before we jump into round 8, it is Italy versus Malta. And although I do believe Italy are kind of a shell of their former selves in terms of ability, nowhere near the kind of quality that they did play at Euro 2020, ultimately versus Malta, they have to win 3-0. Definitely the better team. But of course, that does take us to round 8 of the Euro qualifiers. Once again, don't forget to put your predictions down below, and as we have spoken about most teams, this section of the video will go slightly faster. Like, of course, first of all, we do have Georgia versus Cyprus. First time seeing Georgia in this international break, and they should win this one 2-0. Once again, in terms of quality, whether it be their goalkeeper, he's brilliant, Kvaratskhelia, so many others, versus last place in the group, they shouldn't lose. Now, Switzerland versus Belarus, I do think I will replicate the last time these two teams played with a 4-0 win to Switzerland. Once again, they have been phenomenal throughout the international break, and they should absolutely steamroll Belarus. Now, Czech Republic versus Faroe Islands, once again, one of the favourites in the group versus the least favourites. And I have to give this one to Czech Republic 3-0 because of that. They do have the better team. Much like the next game being Turkey versus Latvia, Turkey definitely do have the better team, and I'm going to give it to them 1-0. I do think it will be slightly close because, as I said, not as good as a few years ago, but definitely the favourites. But of course, we've got a relatively interesting game now with Wales versus Croatia. Now, if this game was played 2-3 years ago, I maybe would have made it very close, maybe a 2-2 draw, but ultimately I have to give this one to Croatia with a 2-0 win. As we know, Wales, ever since Bale bailed on the international team and football as a whole, I mean, he's still winning more trophies than Tottenham Hotspurs, even when he's retired now.
This is football heritage.
Ultimately, Wales have been missing him, and Croatia, once again, they've been superb in recent history. They should dominate this one. Now, Norway versus Spain is next. Now, of course, Spain a very tough break with both Norway and Scotland, but ultimately, they are the better team. They did have a relatively easy time last time versus Norway, even with Erling Haaland, and I have to give this one to Spain 3-1. Now, Kosovo versus Israel, once again, another game postponed. We will talk about it later. But Poland versus Moldova is next. And looking at Poland, the fact that they lost 3-2 to Moldova last time around is absolutely criminal.
You're joking.
I would like to think they could redeem themselves here. And for some reason, I'm going to back them, although they haven't given me a reason to. I'm going to give Poland a 1-0 win here. But once again, been very disappointing. But I do feel like, once again, this time, they are going to have that anger. And they do want that revenge. Now, Romania versus Andorra, once again, Romania a better footballing nation in recent history, and they should win it 1-0. Now, Azerbaijan versus Austria, similar situation. Austria definitely a better footballing nation. Ralf Rangnick has really glued this team all together, because although, yes, you can look at brilliant individuals throughout the team, they almost just play better as a whole regardless. There's almost a bit more camaraderie about the team, and because of that, I am going to give Austria a 3-0 win. Now, one of the biggest games of the international break, Belgium versus Sweden is next, and although, yes, Belgium did get a comfortable win last time around, I don't think it'll be easy this time around. Yes, Belgium are struggling with injuries, but also Sweden have just so much quality in there. I've said on numerous occasions, from goalkeeper to striker, I really can't fault this team. But as I said, if you did have to look at the previous game, I would have to go for Belgium here with a 3-2 win. I do think it will be very, very close, but they are still the favourites. Now, Greece versus Netherlands is next, and I think this is second versus third in the group. Looking at Netherlands, I do think once again they could be knocked down by France. Maybe they could feel unmotivated, but I do think ultimately that they will positively, or react positively, should I say, and they will get a comfortable 3-0 win here. Once again, no disrespect to Greece, I think they've been phenomenal so far, but as we know, when it comes to the Netherlands, they are a group built of leaders, in my opinion, from Frankie de Jong to Virgil van Dijk to so many others, and I do think this is a team they'll carry through. Now, Luxembourg versus Slovakia is next. And once again, I really can't separate Luxembourg from Slovakia any further than I'm going to say right here, because I do think Slovakia should win this one 2-0. They are by far a better nation. They've had an absolutely superb qualifier so far, where Luxembourg once again just haven't. Now, Iceland versus Liechtenstein is next. And I think last time these two teams played against each other, Iceland won what? 7-0?
How? How? How?
I don't know!
I don't think it'll be quite as dominant this time around, but ultimately still the better team, and they should win it 2-0. Now, Gibraltar versus Ireland is next, and I think Ireland is going to end up taking this one. Once again, I'm going to say 2-0. I've spoken about the young quality in the team. We just need them to switch on, and once again, versus Gibraltar, I do think they're a stronger nation. We do have Bosnia versus Portugal next. And once again, I don't want to say anything bad about Bosnia because I do think they've got stars throughout their team. And on their day, it could be very, very strong. But ultimately, Portugal have been the best through qualifiers so far. In terms of goals, not conceding a single goal yet. Once again, Portugal should win this one. I would want to get Bosnia a goal here, but it's going to be 3-0. Now, Finland versus Kazakhstan is next, and this is gigantic because before the previous international break, this was first versus second in the group. Both of these two teams could give each other every single run for their money possible, and as both teams have been absolutely brilliant, I can't really separate them. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw here. Now, Serbia versus Montenegro is next. We spoke earlier about how both of these two teams can be very, very physical. Well, I guess we haven't spoken about Montenegro next. But as I said, both teams absolutely physical. I do think Montenegro has been very, very good throughout qualifiers. But ultimately, Serbia are the favorites here. They've got an absolutely phenomenal team. When they do come together, they play absolutely good football. And I do think they'll just nick this one 2-1. Now, Denmark versus San Marino next.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
And once again, Denmark should have no excuse versus the worst ranked nation in international football, and they should win this one 4-0. Come on, can we get Rasmus Haaland to end up scoring, 4 goals and bring that confidence to Man United, please? But next up, we do have England versus Italy, and this probably is the biggest game of the international break. And looking at England, once again, I'm sure they've got 1 or 2 tough feelings about Italy. But as I said a tiny bit earlier, Italy definitely shell off their former selves, and I can't see them getting any points versus England. I do think they'll win. I do think Jude Bellingham could get a goal or 2, maybe Harry Kane as well. I do think England will score 3-1. Now, Malta versus Ukraine is next. Once again, Ukraine very good in the international stage, and they should win it 2-0. Now, second last game, Lithuania versus Hungary. And as I said, Lithuania unfortunately just aren't very good at football, where Hungary have been giant slayers, and I'm going to give Hungary a very comfortable 3-0 win here. Even with Orban, their main centre-back, struggling with injury lately, I do think Hungary will take it. Now, Northern Ireland versus Slovenia is next, and once again has potential to be a very, very close game. I do like Northern Ireland. I think Johnny Evans could maybe score a goal or 2, but ultimately I have seen more from Slovenia in the international stage, and I think they'll take it 2-1. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my round 7 and round 8 predictions for the Euro qualifiers. As I said, if I've gotten anything wrong or any predictions you disagree with, let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, as I said, let me know who you support. I want to see flags in the comment section down below. But of course, guys, this has been Finn, FY Dublin, and I'll see you for the next round of predictions. Cheers. Bye.